You can. So good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining this webinar this morning. My name is Simran Batra, and I am the Cities Manager at CDP. We're really excited to have you on this call today to discuss about the opportunity of sustainable investment in local authorities. Just a few notes on logistics. There is a chat icon in this WebEx using the speech bubble that you can use to send me questions. There will also be some times for questions and answers at the end of this presentation. Right now I have you all on mute, so don't worry if I can't hear you at the moment. But at the end of the presentation, I'll unmute everyone so everyone can participate and ask questions. So today I will give an overview of what CDP is and what we do with cities, states, and regions. After, I'll provide an overview of the opportunity of working with local government on sustainable action. And then I'll talk about the demand for financing climate projects in cities. We just released a report in September at the Global Climate Action Summit that talks about this. And then afterwards, I will highlight two projects that CDP is doing called Matchmaker and the London Business Climate Leaders as a response to this opportunity of working with cities. And then there'll be time for a question and answers. So just a little bit about CDP. So CDP is a global environmental impact nonprofit working to secure a thriving economy that works for the people and planet. This year, over 620 cities, 120 states and regions, and over 6,000 companies responded to our annual questionnaire. We believe that high-quality, relevant information is fundamental basis for action, and we help investors, companies, cities, and regions to measure, understand, and address their environmental impact. We aim to make environmental reporting mainstream and provide detailed insights and analysis to drive the urgent action needed for a climate-safe, water-secure, deforestation-free world. Since 2011, more than 700 global cities and regions have reported their environmental impact through CDP. This was a record number for cities and regions disclosing, and we've seen a huge increase since the Paris Agreement was signed in 2015. This also includes over 160 cities and over 50 regions in Europe. CDP works with cities to help drive climate action and help us reach a well below 2-degree world as set out by the Paris Agreement that was signed in 2015. We believe that disclosure allows cities to gain data-driven insights into gaps and opportunities for policy development, resource management, and investment. Cities can track their progress against other cities in their country, state, or globally, and can learn best practice, helping cities in their transition to a low-carbon, water-secure world. We believe that insight informs action, and disclosure is the first step on the journey to building a sustainable, low-carbon economy. This is how our process works with cities and states and regions. Cities receive a new questionnaire once a year. Then they go into our online system and provide us with the relevant climate and water data. CDP then manages all of this data and makes it publicly available for free on our open data portal. This is when then partners can receive our data. So for example, we work quite closely with the Global Covenant of Mayors as we are one of their official reporting platforms. The Global Covenant of Mayors is an international body of over 7,000 cities that have made commitments to working on climate change. CDP also works really closely with C40 and ICLEI. We then work with our partners to help cities participate on events, do international advocacy work, and provide cities with technical assistance. Cities can then also make improvements to their climate change data at any point in the year. CDP works with a number of partners and affiliations. This is just a few of them. So we work with Bloomberg. We are funded by Bloomberg Philanthropies mostly. And then, as I mentioned before, we work with C40, ICLEI, the Global Covenant of Mayors, We Mean Business, Climate Kick. And in Europe, we also work with UK 100, CSR Boutique, which is an organization in Romania, the Union of Baltic Cities as well. And what do we do with all of this data once it's collected to us? We give it back to cities, to states and regions, and to the general public and partners. So cities can access it through specific tools and resources that we provide them, such as city snapshot reports and an analytics tool, and the same with states and regions. Then our data can also be accessed through the CDP website, so people can download people's public responses. You can access the data for free on our open data portal. We also make this data available through our global reports that we produce. And then, like as I've mentioned before, we also share this data out to partners. So the opportunity of working with local authorities. With nearly 68% of the world's population projected to live in cities by 2050, cities is where the battle for climate change is going to be lost or won. Cities are economic powerhouses that consume 75% of the world's primary energy and are responsible for 70% of the world's energy-related carbon emissions. In addition, in 2018, we saw 60% of cities disclosing that they are already incorporating sustainability goals into their city master planning. There is a huge opportunity to make a significant impact in reducing emissions, building resilience that will benefit cities and the economy. However, there are a few challenges for financing this sustainable transition into cities. Rapidly growing urban populations and the worsening impacts of climate change are putting pressure on cities' services, infrastructure, and finance. In fact, just 16% of cities are able to self-fund the sustainable infrastructure projects needed to advance their low-carbon resilient agendas. As such, the appetite for collaboration with the private sector is very high. We also know that the demand is there, that $93 trillion of global investment will be needed between 2015 and 2030 if the world aims to meet the Paris Agreement. However, many local authorities aren't able to access public finance as they are facing budgetary deficits. In addition to private finance, cities face the universal challenge that they can't necessarily access it due to credit ratings. In C40 cities, which is the world's largest megacities, only 1 in 5 cities are able to borrow from the national government, and only 1 in 4 cities can issue municipal bonds. However, we are seeing growing momentum that cities are taking action. This year, 90% more cities disclosed that they had emissions reduction targets, and twice as many cities said that they have climate action plans in place compared to the prior to the Paris Agreement. At the Global Climate Action Summit in September, 27 of the world's largest cities, including Berlin, Sydney, and New York, declared that they have already peaked their emissions, while CDP's data also showed that over 100 cities can now obtain the majority of their electricity from renewable sources. And 40 of these cities are already at 100% renewable energy, including Basel and Reykjavik. Cities all over the world are setting bold targets on climate change. London, Copenhagen, Los Angeles, Paris, Stockholm have pledged to have zero emissions by 2050. Reaching these aims will take bold actions, and the 628 cities reporting to CDP are already taking the vital steps to tackling climate change, while at the same time creating jobs, securing healthy environments for their citizens, and building better places to live and work. According to C40 research, cities can make significant progress towards mitigating climate change by taking action across 4 key areas: energy supply, buildings, mobility, and waste. And we have found that cities are taking the most action to reduce emissions from buildings, with a focus on energy efficiency and retrofit measures, with the potential to provide the greatest emissions reductions in the low-carbon energy supply and decarbonization of the electricity grid represents the biggest untapped opportunity for cities. We have seen that these types of actions also have co-benefits for city residents. They also provide health and well-being benefits for cities by creating cycle lanes and green spaces for better air quality. It also leads to greater increased resilience to climate hazards, such as protecting against flooding and heat waves. These types of actions can also reduce fuel poverty, better building standards, can increase efficiency and save citizens money on energy costs. We've also found that there's huge investment in economic opportunities, that public-private partnerships provide jobs and help drive the local economy. So with such accelerated urban growth comes the pressure on transportation networks. By the mid-century, these global networks will need to handle an extra 2.5 billion journeys. For example, the city of Stockholm, decarbonizing the transport system is seen as the latest hurdle in their journey to be fossil fuel by 2040. Achieving this ambitious goal means the city is turning to bikes, buses, trams, and zero-emission ferries, solutions which aid the transition away from private car ownership. From just 8% of buses being fossil fuel in 2007 to a practically fossil fuel fleet in 2018, there is no denying that the ambition, political will, and the spirit of public-private collaboration is taking place in the city. They have challenged the norms, and they're providing new ways of collaboration and innovation. So the demand for financing projects in cities. We released a report at the Global Climate Action Summit, which took place this year in September, and this report was co-authored by C40's Cities Finance Facility, which facilitates access to finance for climate change, mitigation, and resilience projects in urban areas by providing technical assistance to develop city sustainability priorities into bankable investment proposals. This report was also done in collaboration with the Global Covenant of Mayors, which is the largest global coalition of cities and local governments voluntarily committed to actively combating climate change and transitioning to a low carbon and climate resilient economy. So we know that there's a substantial demand for financing and for project preparation of climate-related projects in cities around the world. This report drew upon 106 applications for support received by CFF in 2018 and over 1,000 projects submitted to CDP in the 2017 questionnaire to show what climate projects in cities look like and what kinds of technical assistance they require, with a focus on cities and emerging economies. So we've seen over 1,100 projects across over 380 cities that are seeking over $57 billion in capital investment. So where do these projects fall under? Majority of the projects that are being disclosed are for energy and buildings and transportation sectors. And this is unsurprising when we're seeing that more and more global cities are also setting bold targets to achieve net zero by 2050, which includes cities like London, Copenhagen, Paris, and Stockholm. The geographical spread of these projects also varies. The majority of projects are being presented to us in Latin America and North America, followed closely by Europe. This is also partly to do with how the CFF and CDP work, that there was a larger outreach in Latin America. So it's not truly representative, but it does show that the demand is there and that it's across a global reach. The amount of capital required varies. This breakdown suggests two findings, namely that there's a large amount of projects, small projects, so below 10 million, and a considerable number of projects that are above 100 million. The former finding that 45% of the climate-related projects in cities require less than 10 million in capital investment suggests that there may be an opportunity for cities to bundle projects together to take advantage of economies of scale when possible. However, there is more analysis needed into this of how this process can happen and whether it would actually increase a project's financial attractiveness and whether any bundling is worth the corresponding increase in a project's overall complexity and risk. We also found that the finding of 20% of projects overall and the 35% in the CFF sample are greater than 100 million, which also reflects a pressing need for large-scale infrastructure in cities which have experienced or are still experiencing high rates of population growth. The demand is there and it does vary depending on what city it is. However, there is opportunity to work on this area. So there are, as we've mentioned previously, there are co-benefits of climate action, and we've also seen that there's co-benefits of the projects that cities are disclosing to us. Cities have reported that there would be improvements in air quality, the positive public health impact of safe transport infrastructure, and the potential for financial savings associated with the energy and buildings projects are the most important drivers for cities for their climate-related projects. These climate benefits can be an important additional benefit to justify the ambitious infrastructure projects that cities want to take. Conversely, cities can also make the case for climate projects by promoting them as a measure to achieve their non-climate priorities. There are some challenges to implementing these types of projects. The most commonly cited challenge to implementation were gaps in technical knowledge. However, majority of the barriers were city-specific, such as institutional coordination, stakeholder engagement, regulatory issues, and sometimes public opposition. There's also a challenge that 1/3 of the projects remain in the preliminary or scoping stage and require project preparation to access the private sector. However, cities are still taking action. For example, Greater Manchester has established a low carbon investment fund and a portfolio of small, mid, and large scale schemes. They really see CDP as an example of disclosing their projects and actions that they're taking and are using this to spur further investment into what priorities that they need to work on. And CDP is helping cities to take this action. So I'll present now to you 2 examples of action that's being taken by CDP to help overcome some of these barriers. So at CDP, we want to break down these barriers, and we're uniquely placed within our wider ecosystem over 650 investors with assets of $87 trillion and over 6,800 companies so far in 2018. So cities that participate in CDP are able to connect with these other stakeholders who also bring benefits of working to drive down emissions. So in 2017, we worked with our strong city and investor networks in partnership with Climate Kick to launch Matchmaker, a clearinghouse for cities to showcase planned projects to the finance sector and better position them to mitigate and adapt to climate change. Projects showcased through the Matchmaker platform include flood control, waste management, sustainable transportation, renewable energy, water management, and energy efficiency. Matchmaker bridges the divide between cities and the potential investors through project information disclosure. To identify potential projects, CDP uses cities' responses and invites cities with potential projects to participate and to submit additional project information. CDP currently has some subscribers such as Morgan Stanley, HSBC, Neighborly, and OFI Global. So disclosing to CDP doesn't just offer access to investors. We also work to increase the partnerships between the private sector businesses and local authorities, which have the potential to accelerate the pace of emissions reduction actions in cities. Take London, for example. 40% of the city's emissions come from workplaces. To achieve the city's aim to be zero carbon by 2050 would be impossible without private sector collaboration. Our London Business Climate Leaders project is a collaboration between CDP, C40, the B Team, and the Greater London Authority with the support of We Mean Business. Launched in September 2018, it brings together 11 leading London businesses, including Tesco, Sky, and Siemens, in partnership with the Office of the Mayor of London and the Greater London Authority. Through public commitments on renewable energy, zero carbon buildings, waste reduction, and air pollution, these companies are taking action to support London's ambitious targets. The next phase of this project will see a new wave of companies with operations in London joining the project and committing to reducing emissions, showing the nimble and agile nature that the private sector can support ambitious city action. We're really excited about this project as it can really show how an ambitious plan such as being zero carbon by 2050 can be turned into smaller actions that companies can help support and help accelerate the change that needs to occur. This can happen through shared investment, sharing and blocking different political barriers that might also be stopping innovation. This project will hope to seek how the cities can work with the businesses to help unlock that change. In addition, there'll be a playbook that will be produced after this one-year pilot. So that will happen in the spring of next year. That will share these lessons that we've learned to see if they can translate to other cities and other regions wishing to do the same. So just to kind of give a summary of everything that I've mentioned today, that the existing demand should both be boosted and met. Cities and financiers ought to increase their efforts to plan, develop, and implement climate-related projects. There are already a large number of projects in cities across sectors, regions, and the scale of capital investment. However, even more are needed to fulfill the ambitions of the Paris Agreement. Cities should work to develop comprehensive project pipelines, ideally linked to comprehensive integrated urban development plans, and when required, partner with other organizations to turn these projects into investment opportunities. Financiers can help unlock innovative solutions and the economies of scale by increasing both their capacity to assess and evaluate climate-related projects in cities and their investment in such projects. Both measures can help increase capital investment flow to cities. Closer collaboration with cities may also help to increase capital investment flows. More resources are also needed for project preparation, and particularly in the early stages. Organizations working in the field of project preparation should be adequately funded to be able to support cities throughout the project preparation process. Our report has showed that these projects across project development cycle, which suggests that resources are needed throughout the cycle to support cities in developing project pipelines and accessing financing. All support from organizations working in the field of project preparation must be tailored and contextualized. When feasible, cities and organizations working in the field of project preparation should also aim to prepare climate-related projects with a broad range of financing opportunities in mind, rather than provide a specific source from the start, since it allows for greater flexibility. Cities' climate-related projects differ significantly, and there's a need for all stakeholders to tailor their approach to each and every national context, local capacity, project characteristic, and challenges to implementation. There is also the need for accurate project-level measurement of the climate benefits and co-benefits that can help projects achieve maximum benefit and impact. Financiers and organizations working in the field of project preparation can encourage cities to collect and use climate data when planning all types of projects. They should also build on the efforts to standardize how the benefits are accounted for to ensure that projects can be compared. Climate benefits can be an important additional benefit to the urban projects, and cities can make the case for climate-related projects by promoting them as measures to achieve their non-climate priorities. As sustainability becomes increasingly important for financiers when assessing projects, standardization and accuracy are crucial to ensure the benefits and impacts are accounted for in a comparable and transparent manner. So I'd like to thank you all so much today for attending this webinar and taking the time to listen about the opportunity of working in cities, the challenges that they face, and the need for more private sector investment into climate-related projects. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box or the question and answer field. Oh, there is one question, if this applies to regions or cities only. The research we conducted in that latest report, the demand for financing, was based on city data, but I think it would be quite applicable to the region and state level. In addition, I can also send through these slides, the report, and the recording of this webinar to Anna so she can circulate it to all yourselves. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, I'll leave it at that for today, but my email is on the screen if you want to get in touch or have any other questions. But thank you so much and have a great day.